My husband left me pregnant. I raised his son to destroy him. I never imagined my life would be divided into two parts: the woman I was before he left and the woman I became after. The day he walked out, I was 3 months pregnant. My hands were trembling as I held the medical report, my heart racing not with fear, but with hope. I thought he would smile. I thought he would hold me. I thought this child would bring us closer. Instead, he looked at the paper as if it were a mistake. "Are you sure?" he asked. That was the moment something inside me broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly. The man I married. When I married him, everyone said I was lucky. He was ambitious, intelligent, well-spoken, a man with dreams bigger than his bank account. I believed in those dreams more than he did. I supported him when he failed his first business. I stood beside him when his friends laughed at him. I sold my jewelry so he could start again. He promised me the world. But what he really wanted was success without responsibility. The day he left, he didn't scream, he didn't fight. That would have hurt less. He simply said, "I can't do this right now." Right now. As if a child could be postponed like a meeting. "My career is finally taking off," he continued. "A baby will slow me down." I waited for him to say our baby. He never did. I told him I didn't need luxury. I didn't need status. I just needed him. He picked up his bag, walked past me and said the words that still echo in my ears. "You'll manage." And then he was gone. The silence after the apartment felt too big after he left. His empty side of the bed mocked me every night. The walls remembered his voice even when I tried to forget. I called him once, just once. He didn't answer. That was the last time I tried. Becoming a single mother. My son was born on a cold night. I was alone in the hospital room when I heard his first cry, and in that moment, something powerful happened. Fear turned into determination. As I held him, I whispered, "They may leave us, but we will never be weak." I named him with care, not after his father, not after anyone who failed us. I gave him a name that meant strength. The years of struggle. Raising a child alone isn't heroic, it's exhausting. There were nights I skipped meals so he could eat. Days I worked 2 jobs and still smiled for him. When he asked about his father, I never lied. I just said he couldn't stay. I never poisoned his heart because I didn't want to raise a broken man. I wanted to raise a better one. Watching him rise years passed, and my ex-husband rose exactly as he planned. New company, new city, new wife. Photos of his success appeared online, luxury cars, awards, interviews praising his discipline. I watched silently, not with anger, with memory. Raising my son differently. I taught my son things no school could teach him. I taught him patience. I taught him responsibility. I taught him that walking away is easy, but staying is strength. He grew into a calm, intelligent man. He didn't know his father, but unknowingly, he was becoming everything his father was not. Fate steps. In. When my son turned 24, he came home excited. "Mum," he said, "I got an internship." He told me the company's name. My heart skipped a beat. It was his father's company. I didn't stop him. I didn't warn him. I simply said, "Be honest, be strong." And he was. The irony. My ex-husband noticed him quickly, smart, focused, reliable, everything he admired. He mentored him personally, invited him to meetings, trusted him with sensitive work. He never recognized his own blood. Life has a cruel sense of humor. The truth, one evening, my son asked me a question I had been waiting years to answer. "Who is my father?" I told him everything, not with hatred, with facts. He listened silently. Then he said something that stunned me. He didn't abandon us. He abandoned himself. The plan I never planned. People think revenge is loud, but real revenge is quiet. I never told my son to destroy him. I didn't have to. The truth was enough. The collapse months later, the company began to fall. Internal audits, legal investigations, exposed corruption, all legal, all documented, handled by my son. The man who once said a child would ruin his life was now being ruined by one. The final meeting. On the day everything collapsed, my son walked into his office. He looked at the man who abandoned us and said calmly, "You taught me something important." The man looked confused. "You taught me what happens when responsibility is ignored." Then he left. No celebration. I didn't smile when I heard the news. I didn't celebrate, because revenge wasn't my goal. Justice was. The lesson. My son never changed his name, never demanded recognition, never sought revenge publicly. He simply became proof. Proof that abandoning responsibility doesn't free you, it destroys you. The final truth. If he had stayed, if he had tried, if he had been a father, none of this would have happened. But he didn't. And so he met the future he created. After the fall, people often ask what happened next. They expect drama, regret, tears. But real consequences are rarely loud. After everything collapsed, my ex-husband didn't disappear overnight. He stayed visible, but smaller. The man who once commanded rooms now waited to be invited into them. The phone that never stopped ringing grew silent. The applause faded, replaced by polite nods and uncomfortable pauses. He tried to rebuild, not his company, his image. He gave interviews that blamed bad management. He spoke of unfortunate timing. He never spoke of responsibility, because some people would rather rewrite history than accept they failed it. A father, 2 years later, he tried to find us, not aggressively, not confidently, carefully. A message appeared one evening from an unknown number. "I think it's time we talk." I stared at the screen for a long time, then I deleted it, not out of anger, out of clarity. Some conversations expire when they are postponed too long. My son's choice. I told my son about the message. He didn't react the way people imagine. He didn't ask to meet him. He didn't ask to confront him. He simply said, "I already know who my father is." And he was right. A father isn't defined by blood. He's defined by presence. What my son became. My son built his life with intention, not to prove anything, not to impress anyone, but to live responsibly. He became the kind of man who stays, who listens, who finishes what he starts. And every time I watched him take responsibility without hesitation, I understood something deeply painful and deeply satisfying at the same time. He became everything his father ran away from. The quiet victory. Revenge stories often end with humiliation. Mine didn't. It ended with balance. My ex-husband wasn't destroyed physically. He wasn't exposed publicly by us. He was simply left alone with the consequences of his choices. And that is the hardest punishment of all, because no one else can carry it for you. What I learned that strength doesn't scream. It waits, it builds. It survives long enough to see the truth unfold naturally. I learned that abandonment doesn't always look cruel in the moment. Sometimes it looks practical, reasonable, justified. But time removes excuses, and only results remain. The legacy people assume I raised my son to take revenge. I didn't. I raised him to take responsibility, and in doing so, life handled the rest. That's the truth no one warns you about. You can run from people, you can escape situations, but you cannot outrun the future you're creating. Closing thought. If you're listening to this story and thinking about walking away from responsibility, pause. Not because someone might punish you, but because one day, quietly, without drama, life will return what you abandoned. Not with anger, with interest. Final ending line extended. You didn't abandon me when I was pregnant. You abandoned your own future, and one day you were forced to live without it.